Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another edition of Bad Deck Monday, where we take some crazy ideas and try to make it work into some strange mix of cards. Usually we have some ridiculous strategy, and today is no exception. So this is a strategy we've used before on Bad Deck Monday, kind of revisiting this Crustle Reuniclus deck, and we'll take a look at that right now. So the idea is to revolve around this Pokemon here, Crustle. It has the ability Sturdy if this Pokemon is full HP and would be knocked out by damage from an attack. It's not knocked out, and its remaining HP becomes 10 instead. So basically, if it has full HP, it can't be knocked out in one hit by an attack. Pretty simple. So if you're at full hit points, even if something does 200 damage to you, you survive with 10 instead. So the idea is we're going to try to keep the Stone Home Pokemon alive, and just slowly use Stone Edge to wear down our opponent. That's about it. Now, how in the world are we going to keep this thing alive? You know, it can take a hit once, but then once it has damage on it, well, then it just gets knocked out. So, in order to fix that, we have to run Reuniclus as well. Reuniclus has the damage swap ability, allows you to move damage counters around on your Pokemon. So basically you take a hit with Crustle, and then you move the damage somewhere else. So then Crustle is at full HP once again, and it can survive hits once again. So basically once you get your full setup, you should never really be knocked out. That's what makes this deck kind of cool. It's very annoying for an opponent that can't do anything about it, but it's fun for you because your Crustle doesn't ever get knocked out, and then you just slowly win. So we have Crustle and Reuniclus. Those are the two big players in this deck. Now, there is a problem in the form of special conditions, most notably Hypnotoxic Laser. So to alleviate that, we have two Virizion EX as well. It has the ability Verdant Wind. Each of your Pokemon that has any grass energy attached can't be affected by special conditions. So, if you take a look, Stone Edge takes 2 fighting and 1 colorless energy. So basically we'll use 2 fighting and 1 grass. That way we get the protection from special conditions, and we are immune to things like Hypnotoxic Laser and other stuff like that. So really cool combo here. These are the 3 that really work together. Damage swap moves damage off. Virizion protects you from special conditions. Those are the big concepts here. Now, sometimes we can be overloaded by damage. The damage doesn't just disappear, we just have to move it to another Pokemon. So, we run a line of Serperior as well, which has Royal Heal. Anytime between turns, heal 10 damage from each of your Pokemon. So this is pretty neat. We can just spread a bunch of damage out, and then 10 gets healed from every one of our Pokemon, and the damage pretty much evaporates off the board. Since if you think about it, the most damage Crustle can take is 90, right? Because Sturdy will prevent anything beyond 90. And then we'll heal 10 right away, and then Reuniclus can spread the rest out, and basically after 1 or 2 turns, the damage will be gone completely. So Serperior is a nice addition as well. We also have 1 Mr. Mime for Bench Barrier. Prevents all damage done to your benched Pokemon by attacks. This is mainly because we have to run Solosis, which has 30 hit points. And this could be targeted by things like Landorus EX's Hammerhead, or Curum's Frost Spear, Darkrai's Night Spear. All that stuff can hit Solosis and knock it out immediately, so we need some protection on the bench. Now, somehow, I only have 2 of this Solosis and 2 of this Solosis, so I wanted to run 3. I actually have to run different types of them. Of all the cards in my collection, I somehow don't have 3 of the same Solosis. Kind of weird to me when I found that out, but well, we have 3. They're both the same ones, just a reprint of the other one. The last Pokemon we have in the deck is Mewtwo EX. Now, this is just here because there's a Latias EX, which has the ability that Pokemon that have abilities can't hurt it, which means Crustle can't hurt a Latias EX. So if we get to that, it's kind of a stalemate. So I just needed one big non-ability attacker to power up. So Mewtwo can be charged up to knock out a Latias EX. That's the only reason it's here. Plus, it's another big Pokemon to move damage to. So those are the Pokemon for the deck. We have our supporters. We're just going to run 4N. It's pretty standard. 4 Skyla as well. Now, this is where it might be a little tricky. We only have 2 Professor Juniper. This is because we don't really like discarding cards too much. There's not too much stuff we can afford to get rid of. We have a lot of Pokemon, a lot of evolution lines, and every time we have to discard some, it hurts a lot. So only 2 Professor Juniper, and then 2 Colress as well. And just 1 Shauna in here as well, just as another additional draw card. And then we do have 2 Tropical Beach. Now, you don't really need these, as it is Bad Deck Monday, but this really helps out, because this deck is very, very slow. So those are the supporters for the deck. We have 2 Muscle Band. This just helps Crustle do a little bit extra damage with Stone Edge. It does 70 plus 20 if you flip heads, but if we have a Muscle Band, it's going to do 90 plus 20 if you flip heads. And 90 twice will knock out pretty much every EX. So that's why we have Muscle Band. Just makes knocking things out easier and faster. We have 3 Ultra Ball. Just discard 2 cards. Search for a Pokemon. 2 Level Ball. Search for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less. We have 3 Rare Candy. Since we probably don't need 4. Just 3 will get the job done to, skip from Solosis to Reuniclus or from Snivy to Serperior. We have a couple switch. Since a lot of our Pokemon do have a heavy retreat cost, we need to get them out of the active spot. So 2 switch just for that. We have 1 Max Potion. Sometimes we get overloaded with damage before Serperior comes out, so we can just, Max Potion a ton of damage off. That works too. We only really need 1, since we do have Serperior to heal off that damage. 1 Professor's Letter, just search for 2 basic energy cards. Pretty simple. This is good when you have Skyla in your deck, since Skyla can get you 2 energy. It's pretty good. Super Rod shuffles in 3 Pokemon and basic energy, just to recover some stuff if you need to. And then 1 Town Map. Now, this is not a commonly played card, but you flip over all your prize cards, and this really helps you pick out things that you might need more of. For example, our 1 Snivy or 1 Serperior may be prized, or Mr. Mime may be prized. You never know. Something in there could be prized, and Town Map just helps us in those situations to pick the things out that we need. And then we just have 6 Fighting Energy and 4 Grass Energy. And our Ace-Spec card is Dowsing Machine. Ace-Spec you can only play 1 of. Discard 2 cards, and then grab a trainer from the discard back into your hand. Now, this deck, against a lot of decks, actually, when it sets up, it actually wins. There are some decks, for example, like a Blastoise deck. They don't really have much versatility. All they can really do is attack your active. And those kind of decks do get beaten by Crustle. Right? If they can only attack your active Pokemon, they're never going to knock out Crustle once you get the Reuniclus out. And, well, you should beat those decks. However, there are many, many problems with this strategy. Number 1 is that pain in the butt Garbodor, which shuts off your abilities, which means Sturdy gets shut off. That's very bad, right? That means they just get to knock us out in 1 hit, and we basically lose. You could say, why don't you run Tool Scrapper? Well, it doesn't really matter, since they can just put a tool on the turn they attack, and then you get knocked out. So we're just going to accept that we lose to Garbodor. This is Bad Deck Monday, after all. We also have problems with things like Dusknoir sometimes, which can move damage to Crustle and then knock it out. Or things like Genesect's Red Signal or Pokemon Catcher can bring out the Reuniclus and knock that out. And also Greninja Water Shuriken can put damage on Crustle, and then they can attack you for a knockout. So there are a lot of holes in this strategy. Trust me, I am well aware of all of them. But that doesn't mean we can't play the deck. And let's take a look at a game I played with Crustle, Reuniclus, Serperior, Virizion, Mr. Mime, Mewtwo. Alright. So we start off with a pretty solid hand. Gonna probably open with the Virizion EX since it has a lot of HP. And then we can bench the other 3 as well. Got 2 Solosis and a Dwebble. And let's see what we can do here. Definitely going to play the level ball first. We can see what we have in there. And also, I got to say, I do not like this new way of searching on Pokemon TCG Online. It's more like a wheel. It spins around. It used to be a grid, which makes it a lot easier to figure out what's prized and whatnot. I much preferred that, but I guess this is what we have to work with. I'm just going to take a Mr. Mime, since I really feel uncomfortable unless my Solosis are protected on the bench. Just attach a Fighting Energy to Dwebble. I probably should just attach the Grass, to be honest. But we're going to attach the Fighting and pass the turn. So, let's see what we're going up against. We see another Virizion EX and a Rainbow Energy. So my first instinct is this is going to be a Fairy deck. Right, this has been a very popular archetype. And my first hint should have been the Fairy Garden. Oh boy. Yeah, that's the definite. That's the tip-off. Anyway, I think my opponent actually forgot to bench a Spritzee after playing an Ultra Ball. Played an N there, but oh well, he got the Spritzee back. Sometimes I gotta say, sometimes it is very easy to misclick or misplay online. Happens all the time. You know, most people just aren't used to playing online, or it's very easy to just click the wrong spot without thinking about it. So I definitely wouldn't blame anybody for making a little mistake like that. Happens to everybody. But now we can see more clearly what kind of a deck this is. It's one of those fairy decks that revolves around Genesect and Thundurus as well. So we're going to see Plasma Energy, and that's actually like the worst thing I could see. Just Red Signal is a real pain for this deck because they can knock out your Reuniclus. That's the bad part, right? So that's something I'm not really looking forward to. Now we got to see here, what do I want to do this turn? I can Chorus for 8 cards, or we can Skyla. And then Skyla, I'd probably get an Ultra Ball just to get my Crustle out. Because if I get Crustle out, then it can't just be Red Signaled and knocked out by something. I don't really know what would knock it out, but you know, better safe than sorry with this kind of a deck. I mean, if you set up, you usually win, so it really is better safe than sorry most of the time. So we're just going to Ultra Ball for the Crustle and then pass. This way, if my opponent does Red Signal it out, I won't be knocked out. And maybe we can get Reuniclus next turn, keep it alive, and then just start the lock from there. Now this will be a big turn for my opponent to get some pressure going. A Red Signal here could bring out a Solosis and knock one of them out. That's really annoying. And we do see the Plasma Energy onto Genesect. But, oh, it looks like my opponent decides to go for the Mr. Mime instead. Not really sure what that's all about. Mr. Mime doesn't really pose a threat to this kind of a deck. I suppose it does block the bench damage from Hammerhead and also Megalo Cannon. But yeah, you can actually see why Mr. Mime's so good here. Imagine if I didn't have it. What would happen? Well, it would just Red Signal out of Solosis and then Hammerhead, knocking both of them out. You could just use Aromatese's Fairy Transfer to move the Rainbow to Landorus EX. And then after bringing out a Solosis, it would just be a double knockout on both of them. And I could never really even put down another Solosis because it would be knocked out immediately by a Hammerhead. So Mr. Mime, definitely worth the spot in this deck. And I'm really glad we have it. I'm not sure why my opponent Red Signaled it out, because there's no way it's going to get knocked out. Just the Thundurus is doing 40 damage, but hey, I'll take it. I'm not too upset about it. Alrighty, so now what are we going to do this turn? I got the Professor's Letter. We're going to go ahead and play that. Just grab a Grass and I guess a Fighting Energy as well. We'll take a look and see what else is prized. I'm going to actually take a look. Do I have 2 Reuniclus in there? And yes, both of them are in the deck. So I think we'll just evolve one of them to Duosion. I'll put a Grass on the Crustle. Now it's protected from any lasers. Not that I expect my opponent to really play any. Most of these fairy decks don't really need Hypnotoxic Laser, so I'm not really worried about it. And we're going to Skyla for a level ball. Go ahead and get Reuniclus into play. And just start to threaten our combo between Crustle's Sturdy and Reuniclus's damage swap. Now, I don't really want Mr. Mime to get knocked out, so I'm actually going to move the damage off of it. We're going to move some damage on to the Virizion EX, just because I don't really care if that has damage on it. And I really don't want Mr. Mime to go down, because bench damage can be annoying. We don't really want to see that in the future. So we're going to move the damage off of Mr. Mime and force my opponent to attack with something besides Thunders if he wants to knock out Mr. Mime. Now, he certainly could. He could attack with, Genesec's Megalo Cannon. That would probably be the only thing that would knock out Mr. Mime this turn. But that's fine. And I don't know. This is looking good so far, but we do have to deal with Red Signal. And that is the worst part, right? If they can get to your bench, they don't even have to worry about Crustle because they don't have to hit it. So they can take prizes by knocking things out on the bench. And my opponent actually decides to Red Signal the Virizion EX here. And oh boy, there's a G booster. That is exactly why my opponent wanted to Red Signal that out. He's going to get 2 prizes there. But I'm actually pretty happy with that exchange. I don't mind giving up 2 prizes, because I know, there's only 4 red signals that can happen, really. Maybe more with Shadow Triad, but, if you're going to use 1 on the Virizion EX, that means I get to keep my Reuniclus. And I'm pretty happy about that. Now, I am a little bit scared because my other Virizion EX is discarded already. So if, on the off chance, my opponent did play Hypnotoxic Laser, that would be a big deal. So I am worried about that. But, again, I could not see a deck like this playing any lasers, so I'm not particularly worried. I am going to put the Muscle Band I'm going to put the Muscle on Crustle, and we're going to start using that Stone Edge this turn. I'm looking for another, Dwebble, but we don't seem to be getting one. I'm going to drop another Solosis. Just seems like the best thing to do. Get as many of those in play as possible. And in case of a laser, I guess I am going to attach somewhere just so I can have some way to retreat eventually. And we're going to go with the Stone Edge Tails, but it still does 90, so that's good for a 2-hit knockout. Now, how will my opponent respond from here? That is the question. We see a Muscle Band onto the Thunderous EX. And, again, the one thing I'm worried about is Red Signal. As long as there's no Red Signal, I'm not getting knocked out, my opponent's not taking prizes, and we're good. Again, unless there's a random Hypnotoxic Laser in my opponent's deck. And in that case, I would be in tons of trouble because I don't have another Crustle ready to go. So we're going to hope that does not happen. We do see, another Plasma Energy, so another Red Signal. Bringing out the Solosis. Looks like a pretty easy target for my opponent. We'll probably see a Reuniclus from Thunderous EX. Seems like the most likely thing here. Can just retreat and then Fairy Transfer, move the energy up to the active and Reuniclus. It'll actually be doing 60 because of Deoxys EX's Power Connect and also the Muscle Band. So, poor Solosis is getting knocked out. We do see a Max Potion as well. Those are going to be pretty annoying in this matchup. Interesting that my opponent could have gone for Duosion. It does have 60 HP as well. So it could have just been knocked out by the Reuniclus, but I'm not going to complain. We only lose a Solosis instead of a Duosion, so I'm okay with that. In the grand scheme of things, I'm not sure how much that'll impact the game, but I'm definitely happier that way. I do play an N here, and I got another Dwebble, which is big, and a Snivy as well. Snivy's pretty good. I will put that down. I believe my Serperior is prized, so I'm going to have to get that out at some point. And let's take our 2 prizes here. Got a Town Map and Serperior. Oh, the irony. Town Map was prized. My card to check what's prized is prized. But we did get it out of the prizes, so that's a benefit. And we got the Serperior as well. So it looks like things are starting to turn around. Again, we do have Red Signal to worry about. But Crustle did just wipe out that Thunderous EX in one hit with Stone Edge. Thanks to the Muscle Band. We got Tails, but it's okay. Stone Edge is 90 times 2 anyway. So take that, Thunderous. Now what's going to happen next? We see a Rainbow Energy on to the Genesect EX. Can my opponent do anything else? That's a good question. No, just going to pass the turn apparently. And now let's see what we can do. I'll evolve to the other Crustle. We'll go ahead with a town map. Flip over the prizes. See, we got 2 grass, a switch, and a muscle band. So we can select whatever we need next time. We get to take some prizes. I have a Skyla here. I'm just going to go ahead with it and play a rare candy into Serperior. Seems like the best thing to do. If, some trouble happens, I can always just fall back on Tropical Beach. If I don't draw a supporter anytime soon. And I'm just happy I have all my things out. I have the Serperior, the Reuniclus, the Crustle, a second Crustle, and then we have a Duosion waiting in case that Reuniclus goes down as well. So, overall, we're feeling pretty good about the position I'm in. A couple Plasma Energy have been burned already, like 2 or 3 are gone already. So, overall, this is about as good as I could get against this kind of a deck. I'm just thinking my opponent really didn't know what he was going up against. If you are up against this kind of a deck, you just immediately target down Reuniclus, knock that out, and you don't have to deal with the invincible Crustle anymore because you can't move damage away from it anymore. So if you ever happen for some reason to be facing a Crustle Reuniclus deck, you want to go after the Reuniclus. That's the way to beat it. Or just play Garbodor and win. That's another option. Now we see Genesect coming back up, moving all the energy to it with the Fairy Transfer. And oh my goodness, my opponent uses G-Booster for 420 damage from Weakness and from Deoxys EX, but Crustle is a tank, he does survive. And that is correct. G-Booster does do the 420 damage. The damage is not blocked, but thanks to Sturdy, we just survive. That's how it works. Crustle is sturdy. G-Booster doesn't prevent sturdy. So it all works out. My opponent just discarded 2 energy for no reason, but he did do a lot of damage. I'll give him that. And all we have to do is damage swap, move some damage around, and then Stone Edge. And we're going to heal 10 off of everything thanks to Serperior's Royal Heal. And look at that. 420 damage just disappeared. Actually, more like 90, but, you get the idea. There's only 20 left from that original 90 damage. 10 on a Duosion and 10 on a Serperior, and that'll get healed off next turn, probably. My opponent did discard 2 energy for no real reason. Probably thought G-Booster would get through. In general, when you use G-Booster, something gets knocked out. That's just how it goes most of the time. You G-Booster and then you reach for a prize. Usually 2 sometimes, since you're knocking out an EX. But Crustle is like, nope. I'm just going to hide in my shell, and then when it's all over, I'll come out and survive with 10 HP. And then Reuniclus is like, yep, I got your back, buddy. We'll move all the damage back here. And Serperior is like, alright, I'm the nurse. We're going to heal it all off. And it's a nice combo of Pokemon we got going here. And when there's nothing to disrupt it, this is basically an unstoppable combo. What can you do? If you can just attack into Crustle and do nothing else, it's never going down. And that's just the reality of the situation. Alright, so what will my opponent do from here? He hasn't played an energy yet, I don't think. The Fairy Garden is still out there. He could retreat to something, maybe Landorus EX, that could happen. We do see a Skyla. Thunderous EX would be nice to recover an energy, but it gets knocked out immediately by Stone Edge. So that's definitely not an option for my opponent. We see a Chorus Machine. Not really sure what's going to go on there. I guess it could get another Plasma Energy, and then Genesect could attack, but what's the point in that? Especially since it has so much damage on it. It's just going to get knocked out right away, and actually the Chorus Machine fails, so it looks like maybe the last Plasma Energy happens to be prized. And look, we've put our opponent in a pretty tough spot. And, you know, I would put a lot of that on my opponent probably not being very experienced against a Crustle Reuniclus deck. I mean, how experienced is the average player against a Crustle Reuniclus deck? I don't think very experienced. How often do you run into this kind of a deck? I really don't know. Probably not very often. Oh, we do see a red signal, though, so I think that might be the third or fourth Plasma Energy. I'm not quite sure. It's going to drag out the Reuniclus, and now my opponent has realized, okay, we need to get rid of this thing. It is a pain, and it's stopping me from doing anything. So we see the retreat into Landers EX, and then we'll probably see a Hammerhead for 50, and then Mr. Mime will block that bench damage. So we're going to be able to heal all that damage off in one turn, thanks to Serperior and Reuniclus. But my priority is now going to be getting Reuniclus out of the active spot. I don't have any cards to do it right now. We see that Switch is conveniently hanging out at my prizes, but we do have Tropical Beach to draw a fresh hand, so we should be alright. And I actually top deck a Juniper too, so hey, that works for me. And alright, I did not get a Switch. I might actually be out of them. I think I might have a Dowsing Machine left, though. We can always just retreat Reuniclus as well. That's not a big deal. We should have some time here. Reuniclus could get knocked out next turn, but we would have a way to get another one. In fact, we'll just do it this turn. I can actually just Ultra Ball. Yeah, my other one's not in the discard. We'll get rid of Mewtwo and then Juniper as well, since I don't really think we'll be playing another Juniper this game. Just evolve into a second Reuniclus in case the active does get knocked out. We'll attach a Fighting to the active so I can prepare to retreat. And then draw 4 with the Tropical Beach and go from here. Now with my opponent, well actually, we got rid of the Fairy Garden, which is a big deal as well. My opponent would need, a Fairy Garden and then an Energy as well to retreat into Genesect and attack with a Megalo Cannon. And even if my opponent did decide to do that, then it would just get hit by a Stone Edge for a knockout and he would lose all his energy. So I'm perfectly okay with this. So I'm going to say odds are Reuniclus probably survives, which is strange. Our 90 hit point Pokemon survives. Unless there's an Eviltal EX that comes down, an Eviltal plus a Fairy Garden. We could just see an Evil Ball. That would be a knockout. That certainly could happen. But otherwise, I'm not really worried. This is actually a very good spot. The worst part about playing this deck is all your wins are going to be slow and ugly. They're going to involve a lot of damage swapping. They're going to involve very low damage attacks with Stone Edge. It's going to be 2-hit knockouts all the way, and EXs can just keep retreating. There's going to be max potions from your opponent, and it's going to take forever for you to actually collect all of your prize cards. If there's one, well, there's a lot of bad things about this deck, but if there's one that's very painful, even if you are winning, it's that it takes forever to actually win. And you guys will witness that here. I will go ahead and just retreat. We got that Fighting Energy, and I'm going to try to speed the game up now as fast as possible. I'm going to try to do as little stuff as possible. We're just going to Stone Edge for 110. And after the damage swapping and royal healing, we are left with no damage on the field and an invincible Crustle. So, looks good so far. Where do we go from here? We're just going to have to keep attacking until we can get knockouts. That's where we are here. There's a max potion, like I said. This is going to just take forever and ever and ever. But eventually my opponent will run out of room, and I will not. Because I could just take hits all day with Serperior and Reuniclus. My opponent runs out of max potions eventually. I don't. My healing is infinite. So, this is definitely favoring me right now. And it's just, will my opponent figure out some way to, some clever way to get around this combo? We see 3 Plasma Energy are in the discard pile, and the 4th one is on that Genesect. So unless there's a Shadow Triad in that deck, we don't really have to worry about anything. And alright, my opponent just passes the turn, doesn't even bother with the Hammerhead, because he knows it's just going to get healed right off. It's going to save us both some time. And I'm just going to draw and Stone Edge. Looks like we hit for a nice 90 damage there. It's still a 2-hit knockout. And what will my opponent do next? There's 2 Rainbow Energy on the field, which can be moved anywhere. So my opponent could, I don't know, move the energy somewhere, but nope, just a pass. And this is what happens. When you get all set up, you get all locked up, Crustle just goes the distance. Now I'm going to go ahead and just Skyla for a Super Rod this turn. Just, get some energy back in the deck. We'll get a couple fighting energy as well as probably a Virizion EX. In case my opponent does happen to play something that induces special conditions, I don't know. And we will Stone Edge for 90 damage. And take the switch and a Muscle Band out of the prizes. Just in case there's some sort of red signal shenanigans, or you can at least have another switch to get out of the active. I don't think we'll need any more energy. Just shuffled in a couple. The only thing that can really attack, besides Crustle on my field, is Serperior, and we don't really need to Leaf Tornado anytime soon. So Genesect comes out again, and I guess this is the same one my opponent's used before. It still has damage on it. And another G-Booster for 420 damage. So I think that Crustle has taken a good 1,000 damage or so and lived to tell the tale. I'm going to go ahead and damage swap here. Just make sure it's all healed up going back into my opponent's turn, so it doesn't get knocked out by any attacks. Wait. Oh, I win. Oh, yeah. I'm just wasting time there. Oops. Sorry about that, opponent. Yeah, I can just Stone Edge and win. Sorry. So, that's going to be the game. That's Crustle Reuniclus for you. It is an extremely long and boring deck, and it loses to a lot of things, but when it gets going, and it never stops. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I will see you guys next time.